Hello, I'm Game Retainer, and in this video I'll be going over a handful of locations that are great for looting in 7 Days to Die. I have made some videos about good locations to loot in the past. I'll link one on the screen now, but there are so many locations that, well, I can make a whole series about this. I've tried to keep this list varied, so there should be something for everyone. With that said, let's jump straight in. Up first we have Forever Video. This is a tier 3 POI by default, but obviously the biome you're in will impact its overall difficulty. It's a 2-in-1 POI as it does also include this police station. Keep in mind that normally when you approach this place the doors will be locked, however I've opened them. You will enter through Forever Video and there's not a lot going on. A little bit of loot, nothing too crazy. Couple of zombies, not that difficult. Once you've made your way through the back, you will enter the police station, and this is where things get fun. I have removed most of the enemies just to make recording easier, but once you've made your way into this office here, there's a button you can press to open this door. Opening that door will also open this door, which will allow you to press this button to open this door. Just like most POIs, there is an unpleasant surprise when you try and go for the final loot, so as soon as you cross this threshold, a couple of zombies will jump down, but it's usually not that difficult. The loot, considering it's a tier 3 POI, I think is pretty good, especially when you take into account that you've got these here, and this on the wall. Also, coming here with a wrench can be pretty lucrative because you've got various electrical components that you can break down. You're not going to walk away particularly rich from this one, but I think considering it is just a tier 3 POI, I think it's quite profitable. Also, we've got a police car outside, and police cars are always good for loot. Next on the list we have Goldrush Station. This, in my opinion, is one of the more challenging tier 4 POIs that you'll come across. However, it is also very lucrative. If you have maxed out and reached level 3 in the Infiltrator, then you can pick up the mines that are dotted around, which can sell for a pretty penny. As for the POI itself, there are plenty of things to break down, plenty of vehicles, plenty of electrical stuff, and if you're really patient you can get lots of cloth from these tents. You will find various loot scattered throughout the place as you make your way through, which is very nice. I highly recommend coming here with a wrench and just breaking everything you see. As for the main loot, you will need to make your way underground. It's not as good as a lot of other places, but it's still pretty lucrative, I'd say. You do get this nice chest here, which does contain a lot of goodies. But when you take into account this loot here and all of these stuff that you can break down, open up and steal from above, it is pretty good for getting lots of resources and hopefully a rare plan or two. Just keep in mind, as I mentioned, this is one of the more difficult tier 4 POIs, at least in my opinion, so proceed with caution if you are new. This is NDC Checkpoint One, and I don't know about you, but I love the NDC checkpoints in this game. This by default is a tier 4 POI, but in my opinion it's nowhere near as difficult as the previous entry. You will find plenty of tents, and inside these tents there's lots of stuff to break down, which is quite nice. You can walk away with a nice amount of cloth, and as you can see there are various vehicles that you can break down. The reason why it makes the list is the main loot area, because if you are lazy you can hop this fence, and here it is. Keep in mind that if you do decide to cheese it and just come straight for this loot, you will still trigger the largest wave of zombies, but it shouldn't be that difficult. Obviously, just come here well armed. This is probably the fastest NDC checkpoint to get through because the barriers are, well, virtually non-existent. You can hop them without parkour or anything, so you can just make your way in and out pretty quickly if that's what you choose to do. Sticking with NDC checkpoints, this is NDC Checkpoint 3. And while it is also a tier 4 POI, I feel that this one is significantly more difficult than the previous entry. One of the reasons for that are these high walls that go around the perimeter, meaning that once you've made it through one area, it can be quite tricky to run out if you need to get away quickly. I have discussed this POI in a couple of videos, and that is because it is one of only a couple of places where you are guaranteed to find the recipe for supercorn, and it can be found in this chest. So if you want to come here, hop the walls, grab it and run away, I'm not judging. As for the main loot, you will find it in here, and it's pretty plentiful. And just like all the other entries, if you do come here with a wrench, then you're going to be walking away with a pretty nice haul. As I mentioned, this one does feel a lot more challenging than the previous entry, so keep that in mind if you decide to visit. Right, this is the last NDC checkpoint I'm featuring on this list, okay? I really like them and it's my video. But this is NDC Checkpoint 5, and it is also a tier 4 POI. Similar to the others, plenty of cloth, plenty of little makeshift buildings to check out and clear out and harvest any materials you like. This is quite a large POI, and the way that it's structured is you are supposed to enter from the front and then sort of make your way around, and eventually, once you've gone through this, what looks to be some form of decontamination chamber, you will enter the place where you'll find the main loot, and that's here. To open this door, there is a button here. That button will also give you access to this area, which has even more loot. So you kind of get a 2-in-1. I mean, this isn't as good as the loot you find here, but still, when you combine everything together, you can walk away pretty wealthy from this one. If you come here with a drone and a gyrocopter and just fill everything up to the max, you'll walk away with a hefty amount of resources, and probably a few decent books and schematics as well. I am just going to give a very quick mention to Fort Razor. This is a tier 3 POI, so it is less difficult than the last few entries. It's also a lot smaller than the last few, and it's much easier to navigate. The reason why I'm giving this one a quick mention is because of how easy it is to get to the main loot area. The main loot area is located right inside this tent here, and while there isn't as much loot here as with the previous entries, there are a lot less enemies. So if you want to come here and hop the wall, you can just loot this and run away. But if you're willing to stay and clear out the whole place, there are plenty of things that you can break down and search. Despite it being a tier 4 POI, OPS logistics spans across a pretty large area. As always with larger POIs, there are plenty of stuff to break down with a wrench or an impact driver, which is always handy. As for the main loot, if you want to come and do a grab and go, you can. And I would advise breaking down this door, although it will take a little while. Here's the main loot, and it is pretty good. You do get that lovely chest in here. Also, just look at all this. Boxes to break, things to destroy. You'll walk away with plenty of resources. Paper, plastic, and various other build materials. Also, it's not just this one building, you have another building here and an office building out back. The office building is pretty good for getting a bunch of leather and various electrical components because, well, it's offices. And then the additional warehouse is just filled with stuff that you can break down and loot. Also, you can sort of see how the previous occupants spent their final days, which I always find quite interesting. This is a bit of a time-consuming one, but if you're willing to come here and you've got some patience and a few good tools, then there's plenty of stuff to snap up. I'm going to finish this video with a POI that is somewhat similar to the previous entry, but it is significantly smaller and therefore easier to search. This is Ecotrash Recycling Centre, and it is a tier 4 POI. You will find all sorts of, well, recycling. So there is plenty of stuff to break down and loot and whatnot, but this area in particular isn't as lucrative as the previous entry. What does make this place great is how easy it is to get to the main loot area. If you want to hop this fence and break down these walls here, which have I think 1,000 points in them instead of the, I believe, 15,000 for these roller doors, then you will come face to face with the loot. The main loot room is pretty similar to what you would find in the OPS logistics entry, but it does take less time to get to because the walls are significantly thinner. Also, the rubbish, or trash as you Americans would say, has been sorted, so if you want to break it down, it's all done into nice neat piles so you can grab what you want and go. The place itself is not that difficult to clear despite it being a tier 4 POI, especially if you come here with the intent of just grabbing the loot and running away. So I hope you found this video helpful. There are so many places to loot in 7 Days to Die. I can keep going with these lists if you are enjoying them, so let me know in the comment section. Also, you may notice that I'm not just doing the top tier places, I am trying to include a nice variation of places to loot, so there's a little something for everyone, as I mentioned at the start of the video. If you have any video ideas or anything you'd like to see me do, then feel free to use the comment section below and let me know. With that said, I hope to catch you in the next video.